There are no gatekeepers.
Okay.
The concept of gatekeeping is when a person is being booked time and again, and the other person who's not being booked, they feel sidelined.
Okay.
But then it is the duty of the poet who's not being booked to question, is like, what am I doing wrong?
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Buo. My name is Emmah Mabye, and today we have with us an amazing, super talented poet, author. There's just so many things. She is such a warm soul. She is fire in absolutely all elements of that word. Her bio is so illustrious that I really have to read it. Mo Afrika Wa Mokgathi is a Mamelodi-born South African-based, multifaceted artist who is a poet, author, translator, performer, cultural activist, teaching artist, performing arts producer, curator, I'm not done yet, VO artist, award-winning radio presenter, producer, and a serial civic leader amongst many in her talent hat. She is also the author of My Tongue is a Rainbow, which is a poetry debut collection, Mail and Guardian 200 Young South Africa Alumni 2020 awardee for her contribution in the arts and entertainment. Also, Alumni Young African Leadership Initiative Cohort 2017 and the Banza Cultural Leadership 2021. The list goes on. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, people of the world, please put your hands together. A virtual applause for Mo Afrika Wa Mokgathi.
That's all me.
Yeah, I'm so excited to have you here.
I'm happy to be here.
But before we go diving into your bio, you just did a medley of poems. There's Burning Men, and there is the other one is Be Cautious, right? Yeah. Why those two poems?
They're speaking of a pandemic, as the president has called it, of gender-based violence and the femicide numbers in South Africa. And the two poems, they speak to that. They speak to how we are dealing with these issues and how women are, at the point of retaliating for themselves. These hands are knives ready to castrate. We are ready to retaliate for ourselves as women, one way or the other. Yeah.
I think it was around the time of Mam Winnie's passing, where I saw on social media the quote. I think it was from her, in which it said that in us dealing with apartheid, we forgot to tackle the issue of patriarchy. Do you feel that men and the public in general is actually hearing what we're saying in these poems?
Men are hearing us, and patriarchy has taught men to remind women that they should be submissive, they should not question, or they should not raise certain issues. And the short and long answer to it is that these men are hearing us. And one of the goodest example is when there was a shutdown, women shut down here in the capital city on the 1st of August. A couple of weeks later, then you find that, men want to support us, but then, they are marching while they're driving in their cars. So, they do hear us. And also in the quest of us addressing some of these issues is that we are telling men the truth. And then the way of them retaliating is by being physical. Those are some of the, the underlying matters around the gender-based violence issues that come up.
Yeah. And I'm glad you touched on that, because this is a topic that's really dear to my heart. The gender-based violence and the femicide in this country is so pronounced. I think for me, it really hit me when I was in Europe, in Belgium and Sweden, where I saw a woman can be on her phone at 10 o'clock in a bus and not fear that maybe she might have a phone taken or worse things done to her. And even more so when I was walking in Belgium it was from one event that we were at, and I was walking after midnight to my hotel. And just like not even 5 minutes, every 5 seconds, I'm like looking over my shoulder to say, am I being followed or whatnot? And I remember I got to my hotel and I broke down, because I thought to myself, I arrived intact in one piece and nothing happened to me, and that was just absolutely alarming for me to think that back home, that might have been a different case for any other woman, you know? What role do you think poetry has in addressing this pandemic that we are facing ourselves?
We write about it. There are productions about it. Are we doing enough? No. But there is a contribution to what's dealing with this. And also what has been coming up is when you find male poets who want to address some of these issues, and they are using what might be regarded as derogatory choice of words to address some of these issues, and in not so best approaches of dealing with these matters. But poetry question in depth, and it answers, in depth. Yes. And that is our contribution, in that space. You won't be finding it on television or having these talks, on mass media where we are conversing about poetry contribution in every other societal issue, but we are writing about these issues, not in everyone's faces, yes, but yeah, the contribution is there. You find productions, like the Emmah Mabye production, Bodies Under Siege. You find now turned into a film. # We Are Dying Here. Those are some of the contributions, that we are contributing. And then, funny enough, some of the the advocacy work that comes or that makes the rounds on your WhatsApp, it is via poetry.
Yes,
Yeah. So contributions are there.
Do you think enough is being done though to change or better the situation?
I mean, enough has been given space. A platform, have people. There are many interventions that can somehow interlink poetry to the people. Poetry is picking up right now. We get booked to become MCs because they know they will get poetry in it.
Yeah.
Some of the events are themed. Then that's when, we consciously say, okay, now I have people who can listen. How do I now, throw in this line, throw in this poem, while you are, the edutainment part of it comes, but that is, part of us just sliding in.
Which is good like that, So we just read your very beautiful bio.
Yeah.
But where did it all start? Because you just wear so many hats. And it's just a lot.
Yeah.
So where did it all start for you?
It started in a small village called S01, not the German S11. S11 in the northern part of South Africa, in Limpopo. That's where my family shrine is. A woman who was reciting family clan names, being addressed as Kadi Kulu. So she was reciting these clan names, and I was just taken by how people celebrated her, and the role of Kadukulu in a family, how it's held dear. But the poetry element part of it, that, Makoti will never leave the homestead before Kadukulu recite the family clan name. I think that is just so powerful. So I wanted to be Kadukulu, and that was my interaction with poetry. Yeah.
At the core of it, what is poetry to you?
Poetry is speaking one's truth. Speak your truth, and those who listen will hear you.
Yeah.
And also, it can take one quite a long time to speak their truth.
Yeah.
And when you know that you're speaking your truth, no one can shake you. and you don't doubt yourself. That is the most important thing. That when the noise is coming from whichever direction, you know that this is my honest truth. And whether people, are drawn to that or not, but you are speaking your truth. So for me, poetry is speaking your truth. There are rules to write poetry, but also if you follow the rules, bend the rules, poetic justice, whatever you want to call it. But as long as you're speaking your truth, and you might just be surprised. I mean, there are different types of poetry genres where people are just flourishing. Now we have pure slammers who are making just amazing things. Yep. South Africa is the world champion.
You know this, yes.
So like that, when one finds their, when one path their career trajectory, it makes it so nice, that this person knows where their truth can fit, and it's also okay not to fight. We are being labeled as women who are just fighting in our poetry, but we're just speaking our truth. And whether people like it or not, they don't. But we are on the truth side of the story.
I think one thing I like about you is that truth factor. You are consistent in it no matter which hat you actually wear. Yeah. So of all these hats, which one is your favorite baby?
My first love is theater, right?
And I really have to tell everybody. So MoAfrika was part of my poetry production clocking in, and she played the mother. Amazing. She was just absolutely amazing. But yeah, carry on.
Yeah, and that was lovely.
Yes. The theater.
Theater. For me, theater, it's a beautiful space. Yeah. Everything happens in real time. Mm-hmm. There are no redos. There are no redos. You are interacting with your audience, getting the feel of the message that you are trying to put across in real time. I love jazz music, and jazz has a deep core of being an improviser. So that blends in as well within the theater space. And much as I don't like the long rehearsals, but theater is my first love. If I were to be a millionaire, just, performing for a live audience, why not?
But also, how do you juggle all these balls? Like, what time do you even have?
A reminder that we don't have provident funds. It is the biggest one. Yeah. One, having many revenue streams, it's of importance, when you are working within, showbiz. Multi projects at a time because of touch here, come back here, So, but having a support structure, it's very important to know that you have someone you trust to leave your child with, come back home or do whatever, spend a whole month on tour, come back. A support structure. It's quite important for me, and that's how I'm able to juggle, all this all these heads around. But also it's because of I love it. So when you love what you do, it's no longer work. You are passionate about what you're doing, and it's like you're getting paid
to have fun,
like literally.
Love that.
Yeah, much as it can be very tiring and all of that, but you're getting paid to do what you love. So it's no longer. Physically you're tired, but like you're just so fulfilled, and you want to go on to the next one and to the next one.
And you go. So you mentioned to Hear My Voice, which is the NGO which you are a part of, the ones who are doing the Lord's work. Do you feel that people are able to separate or distinguish MoAfrika, the standalone poet, and MoAfrika of Hear My Voice?
I mean, there's a thin line there, and for me, with the core partners, the co-founders of the organization, Ishmael Sbie and Tumelo Sekamoto, we have come to to terms to have an understanding, especially for myself and Tumelo, to say which project can really be fit to be part of Hear My Voice and to be part of an individual project. But I think we are doing quite well, but people don't really understand that. I still get those phone calls or people sliding their emails like, hey, can you come do this poetry workshop and all of that? Then all of a sudden they ask, so what would be your organization contribution? It's like, no, but you need to distinguish. I can still, do conduct workshops as myself, and Hear My Voice can also come on board. But then it's also about teaching people that these are two brands. And but yeah, so far so good. I think people know much as I am one. Unlike Ishmael, when they see him, some people call him Hear My Voice.
Yes.
So, but yeah, I guess myself and Flex, we still have that leeway just to step aside. Like, no, he's Flex of here and I. And, it's Mo Afrika Wa Mokgathi on the end.
Nice. On the poetry industry, do you feel that poetry is given its due recognition, for example, the Department of Sports, its culture, corporate, and other spaces?
It is, but not as much. Not as much. I remember when Nelson Mandela was really, trying to root himself around South Africa. He had a permanent imbongi who was traveling with him, and because he understood the power of having a poet, who performs before, history teaches us that kings and queens would, there will be an imbongi first before they can address the masses. And, the idea is that the poets would somehow see the future or reflect to the past or remind people where this particular person is coming from, their strides, their failures, but they're here now and they're about to speak to you. So governments see us and the little bits, drops, bits and there, it happens, but it's not, one can never feel seen, right? There are projects that started, but they failed.
Yeah.
Poetry projects that started, failed. Academies that started, they failed. Then one wonder, in a country with a high percentage of people who can read with comprehension, but we have just so many poets who are writing, where do we find ourselves? And, as we travel, we find that, especially in Sweden, there are what they call Vic schools. So between high school and university, there's a program that young people do. And it involves a whole lot of creative and cultural, practices. I think, those are some of the things that we should look into. If you're going to do your, Hosapa course because of you failed, and you go to Osapa into the creative space, that is all good and well. Some of the things that we can do, that government can do, to draw young people within the creative space, but also highlighting the poetry side, that we really need space for poets to flourish. We have seen the growth of the comic space. The comedians, it's not witchcraft. They worked. They worked. They put in the work, and now they have the awards and all of that. I think poetry is right on that alley, and Hear My Voice mandated me to start South African Poets Guild, and we roped in Poetry Zone ZA to make sure that there's a stronger voice within these spaces. And Nxamalala Umsholozi, Jacob Zuma reminded us that we can never work in silos, but we need to speak in one voice, and we saw the change in the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture to say, come together. And many organizations were formed, for us to really speak in one voice. And, poetry is not unique, but we're just following on those working models and, advised by some of the brilliant minds within the creative and cultural industry. But yeah, we're getting there. We shall be okay.
Are there gatekeepers in this field? Name and shame. But what are your thoughts on gatekeeping, if any, in this space?
I hope I don't sound too controversial or being the devil's advocate here. I mean, I would like to believe that there are no gatekeepers, right? And I'll tell you why.
I'm really keen to hear this one, yes?
Yeah, I mean, there are no gatekeepers. Yeah. If a person, I'm speaking, I don't want to speak from...
real talk, Mama, real talk. Bring it.
No, there are no gatekeepers.
Okay.
The concept of gatekeeping is when a person is being booked time and again, and the other person who's not being booked, they feel sidelined.
Okay.
But then it is the duty of the poet who's not being booked to question, is like, what am I doing wrong? I would like to be booked by you, or how do I go about it? And like getting constant questions, how do I really tap into the industry? I'm open to that. I make time, to speak to people who want to understand how to get into the industry. And I always direct them that do things for yourself. People will get you there and they will see that you're doing something. But if you're going to say, hi, they're just gatekeepers, but you are not creating something in your corner where you are, the light won't beam on you. That's a fact. How are we going to know that you are writing about gender-based violence? How are we going to know that you're writing about education systems that are fault? And when the person who's producing or curating would know, it's like, oh no, Usman Ban is actually doing a poetry production about, school issues or whatever topic that you might be talking about or addressing, in your poetry. It's about that continue doing the work where you are. And the people who are there will see you. If you also, they bring you on board for that one gig, because you find us like, bayavalelana since bambiza gaiwan. Bazobiza gaiwan because of that time they called you, you came late. You were not dressed to the part, even after they've told you must not dress black, you must dress blue, So the little things, it's about one taking themselves seriously. Sometimes there are people who just have their own circle because of, they know, if I'm going to call Emmah now for a gig, she's going to run, dressed to the part. And then they're going, every time they will be calling that particular person. And we see that within the circles of wide productions. They know that people will come on time and all of that. But then it also goes back to, hey, I mean, you're good on stage, but what you're doing is not poetry, is prose. Can you go work on that and then come back? You find that the person is not even doing poetry. Some of them is like, diary entry, but they're saying you are gatekeeping. Try to understand the business. I mean, I'm not throwing shades here, but I'm just giving all these examples for people to understand. But to say, hi, do you have time to just talk to me? This is who I am. And sending people your poems. There's intellectual property issues that comes in. I'm going to read your poem and even if I forget it, 5 years later, I might write your poem and I remember the line and I think that my ancestors gave me that poem and I forget that line. And but there are no gatekeepers. It's about also getting within the radius of these people. Because of once they know that, okay, if we want is it Xhosa poet, okay, is it Xhosa poet, who do we go to? Then there's someone at reach. I'm not going to be Google Xhosa poets. I'm just going to go to check my list of the poets that I know, or that they're at reach. So getting closer, trying to be within the circles, and the circles is not mean that there's a cabal of poets booking each other. No, it's about being within the circle. I am here. This is the work that I'm doing. But if you're going to be there, not wanting to come into the light and say, this is just my two cents. But gatekeepers, there are no gatekeepers. There are people, like, you work with people because of, they'll bring a level of professionalism, and that those ones, I'll be okay. Then they will be on rotate, And unfortunately, the structure of comedy when you find that a poet is they are curating their own production. They have what do they call them? Curtain raisers.
Yes.
Poets they want to be superstars. You know, there are no curtain raisers. You don't bring.
Girl.
There are no. I think another person that is doing good is Claire Torsten Repka. When he does productions, he brings all these other poets to say, "Open up the stage for me," and you know. Like if we can take that that structure, then we are heading somewhere. I can talk a lot on this, but I really like to believe that there are no gatekeepers. If a person who's a promoter, curator of poetry, they don't know you, they're not going to dream your numbers and dream how you perform. Guys, just say, I am here.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I mean, these are not the stories that we hear about radio people, that I've been going to that radio station, just be sitting there. Like, I'm not saying that people must now know my address and be like, hey, we're on book, but like, what are the interventions that one can really, you know, make for them, you know, to be? I still go to shows, even when I'm tired and I don't feel like going to shows, Emmah, I go. I call it the business of showing face. If because in showbiz, you are in, you are out. If people forget that you even exist.
So out of sight, out of mind.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's exactly like that. No, MoAfrika, no, as a performer, they're busy doing curation stuff. If I don't go to this event, it's like, hey, I'm still working. You know, the business of showing face.
What I like about you is that you have really put yourself out there and said, if anybody wants to sit down and learn the business of the arts in whatever way, let's meet, do one-on-one. If you were National Poet Laureate with an unlimited budget, what would you do? The one thing, the first thing even that you would actually do.
I would open up a poetry museum.
Oh.
Yeah. For poets to come and learn. I will really make it like one of the packed museums, you know, addressing different issues about the poetry industry, the history of it. And I would definitely add a whole chunk of, you know, even if it can be a listening booth of master classes where poets can just listen about career trajectory. It's important because they don't offer that. Also the South African universities, it only started now with TUT where they teach you the business of showbiz. So
that's so crucial.
Yeah. So but it's coming though. So so don't take the idea. It's already cooking. Good.
You heard.
Yeah.
On the spot, is there one up-and-coming poet whose work or journey you look at that reminds you of how you started?
None.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who should we be on the lookout for?
It's like, I mean, all my South African poets are my poetry babies. That's a hard one. Man, Mara.
On the spot.
I mean, I would say Hope Nechivambe.
Ooh.
I would say Hope Nechivambe.
Hey, yes. No, amazing. What do you know now that you wish you knew when you started?
Do you, darling?
Do you? I love that. Your worst performance and why?
Worst? It was not really a performance as such. I was emceeing. But then, I don't know, maybe it's growing old or what. But I was just, you know, trying to sing out. And it's happening now but quite frequently.
Yeah.
My voice is just, you know, getting thicker but I was coughing while I was trying to sing this song. And I couldn't stop and it was streaming live. I think, and this is just recently.
Wow.
Yeah.
Best performance?
I think every time I perform, because of it's the best of me on that particular day.
Ooh, that is beautiful. You bring the best of yourself onto the stage. When we look at what you have done so far and what you still wish to do, what is your ultimate goal when it comes to poetry?
The museum. For young people to really have a home, to like just to immerse themselves in the poetry literature of South Africa, the history, options that are there. Having that museum is my ultimate dream for now, which it will have podcasts, it will have no mainwena, but everything that is about poetry, it will be in that brick and mortar space.
I look forward to seeing it from your mouth to God's ears.
Amen.
Thank you so much for gracing us with your presence today. And thank you for watching today's wonderful episode of Puo, the #1 poetry hub. Thank you so much. Thank you.